Welcome back to a Deeper Dig Conversation Series, episode 31. Welcome, Hannah. It's a pleasure to have you on and looking forward to, having this discussion.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for us to chat more.
Yeah, so the first question I like to ask, just to get us started, is how would you describe yourself as a person? For you, I really got a chance to understand your work from a more creative perspective and just focusing on the branding, focusing on the small details. But how would you describe yourself as a person?
Um, I would say I'm a pretty intentional person. So no matter if that is in designing my home or creating videos or just fostering different relationships, I always try to put a lot of thought into the things that I do. And outside of that, I feel like I'm also pretty sentimental. So I feel like that's why I spend so much time collecting different things because I'm always trying to find meaning in these things that I like bring into my home. So I spend a lot of time at the vintage shops, antique shops, just finding cool things that tells a cool story and has meaning so then I can bring it back to my space and kind of create my own museum of me.
Were there any vintage shops that you really feel connected with?
Here in San Francisco?
Yeah. Anyone you want to shout out?
I mean, I feel like I spend a lot of time at Community Thrift in the Mission District. I feel like I feel like their inventory rotates really quickly, and it's also one of the few thrift shops that are in my price point. So I do like hanging out there a lot. And they kind of have it all. They have clothes, they have books and records, and then they have furniture. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite ones here at the city.
Yeah, and I noticed that when you design your own website or have your own website, congratulations on that. I noticed one of the things that caught my eye was how you didn't go to design school and, everything is just kind of like you discovering having your own aesthetic. How important was that with having your own aesthetic, not only just for yourself, but also establishing that within, your own branding with social media and just all of it?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's really important just because like I said, I always try to be very intentional about the things that I put out there, and I want to put out things that I feel proud of. And my brand, or I guess the mission behind my brand, is to make home decorating, home designing more accessible to people. So I always try to position myself as just your approachable friend. I try to break down very complex design principles to simple terms so that everybody can feel like it's something that they can apply to designing their spaces.
No, yeah, and I agree. I think the whole process of just discovering yourself within your own branding and just kind of finding those intersections of how you can correlate so many things within your process of not just social media but within yourself is something that's really essential, I think. But you're from Texas, right?
Yes, I am.
So how do you see things in Texas differing from San Francisco?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different components to touch on, but I feel like maybe one of the biggest difference is that it's a lot slower pace. Even though so I grew up in Houston, Texas, and even though Houston is one of the biggest, or is the biggest city in Texas, I also grew up in a smaller neighborhood called A-Leaf, and A-Leaf in itself feels a lot like a small town. Everybody knows everyone. Everybody's always helping each other out. We all kind of hang out at the same places, restaurants, shops, etc. So I think because it's a lot slower pace, we do have more of an opportunity to build community. So yeah, everyone again is always hanging out together. I guess visiting parks and stuff together, having barbecues and stuff. So I do feel like there's a big sense of community that Texas has, that maybe because San Francisco is so fast paced, it's a little bit harder to find.
Yeah.
But me coming from Texas, that's something that I grew up with, and that's where that's something that I really miss about home. So I try my best to like build community here in the city. So I do like host a lot of events, and that's also why I like put so much time and effort into like curating my home so that it feels like inviting and welcoming, so that I can bring that sense of community into my place as well.
Yeah, and I think another thing about San Francisco too is like it's definitely like a little bit more discovery and more research that you got to do in order to like find your people, because that's one of the things that's so challenging about the Bay Area itself. Like you find that in Oakland where people are more focused on community and you really find your people, but I feel like in a place like SF where like you mentioned it's fast paced, everything is always going on all at once, especially like because I'll say for San Francisco it's mostly like a tech based city. Like everywhere you go is focused on tech, and a lot of the times people focus and operate on that fast-paced mindset. But going off of community, one of the things that really I feel like definitely I took a lot of inspiration from was your design tips that you started with Instagram and how you formed that into your own series. How did you start off with that, and how establishing a community within like people seeing those design tips and seeing how, okay, she works on these pieces and I really like this in my home. How did that came to be?
Yeah, I think I mean, I guess going back to like kind of like my mission statement on like why I wanted to start this series in the first place, or start sharing my videos, is because like I just want home design to be more accessible to people and more approachable. So whenever I like started out like building those design tips, like I try to like think about it from like a very like beginner friendly ways, and I do that by like thinking back onto the time when I first started decorating my home, like what kind of questions did I have to like run into, what kind of questions did I run into, and like what kind of challenges did I run into. And that's kind of like where or that's how I like come up with the ideas that I do have for these design tips. And then I try to like, I feel like interior design, interior decorating is a very like complex thing and a very like intimidating thing. I think a lot of people, and myself included, feels like it's something that like you need to have a lot of money, or like you need to have a lot of like experience or knowledge in this field to do it correctly. And I don't feel like that's true. Like I feel like you can learn everything yourself. So I try to break these design tips down into like the most like beginner friendly way as possible. Try to like use very like simple terms and like keep my tips to just like 3 tips at a time, so it doesn't overwhelm somebody. Just so that it's, you know, easier to digest for somebody who's just starting out. Because that's something like I wish I had for myself when I was starting out with my design process.
No, yeah, and I think another thing that is also interesting is seeing how personal everything feels. Like specifically with you, your home, or you know, the works that you've been able to showcase through yourself, it feels warm, it feels inviting, and how important is having that aspect of, you know, everything feeling welcome.
I mean, very important. Like for me, like as much as I love spending time like curating my home, like I do feel like my home is a reflection of myself. But at the same time, the reason I do it is because like it's intended to bring people together. Like it's intended to be like a safe space for not just myself, but all of my friends and family to come and gather and like just make good memories together.
Yeah. And, you know, and specifically like from the creative landscape, I feel like every single person who is a creative and who identifies themselves as creative always has that feeling of inviting themselves and inviting their personal experiences in a way that's unique and that's creative. And for you, has there been any creatives, it could be in the Bay Area, it could be in general, that you get inspired from, or anyone that you feel like is doing like really good work right now that you want to mention?
Um, I mean, honestly, there's so many. Like I feel like it's kind of hard to like just pinpoint one that's like my favorite.
No, you can shout some people
Or like
out.
my like I feel like I have a few that I of course like some of them I even speak to like on the daily. But I would say for like the creative side, like the content creation side, like this is something like completely new to me. Like whenever I started this journey, it was really just to like share my home design process. So picking up like a camera and like filming myself talking in front of a camera, those are all like new skills that I have to develop through social media. So I do take a lot of like, at the beginning I did a lot of experimenting, like trying out different formats, and like I took a lot of inspiration from like different like content creators, not only in the home field but also like in pretty much every different like aspect: fashion, storytelling, poetry, pretty much like all of the above. Yeah, like I feel like whatever. Like I feel like I pull the things that I feel like resonates the most with me, and like bring my like own unique take on like all of my favorite things from all of my favorite creators.
Yeah, no, that's real. I think one of the things that, you know, I definitely try to do on my end is exploring each various topics on like how I can get inspired. So 1 minute I can get inspiration from, you know, Never Too Small. And for people who don't know Never Too Small, they're focused on interior design as well. And then I can get inspiration randomly from like Waymo. Like it really,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really all of the above. But I feel
Yeah.
like the important thing that really goes into it is just, you know, the process of discovering and creating, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I did want to ask is, I feel like with being a creative, there is a lot of challenges, but, are there any like challenges or any like, things that you come across where it's like, dang, I gotta like push myself further?
Mm, I mean, I feel like at the beginning, even sometimes now, like the biggest challenge as like a content creator is like, how do you hit the algorithm? And I think at the beginning when I first started, like you just put so much work into like your art and creating these videos, and it's just it sucks whenever like you put something out there and then the algorithm doesn't pick it up. Like you're not reaching the audience that you wanted to reach, even though you spend like maybe like 8 or 10 hours plus per video. So I feel like that was the biggest challenge for me at the beginning, but I kind of had to have like a mindset shift like halfway through to really understand like I'm creating what I feel like is most like honest and true to myself, and like even if it only reaches like a couple people, even if it only like helps like a few people, and like I see a few saves, like that means more than anything to me. So I try not to like stress too much about like reach the same way that I used to, and I kind of just put out things that I believe in and that feels true to me, and I feel like eventually it'll reach the right people.
You know what's interesting about the algorithm, though? I feel like I feel like you gotta find like a middle ground. I'm just saying in general, like where it's like it identifies like your brand, but at the same time it works for the algorithm, because
Yeah.
you probably already know that like our generation, we have such a short attention span,
Yeah.
where like we can't look at anything that's past 3 seconds. Like we only got 3 seconds to appeal to people. And one of the things that I really like about your work is how concise and how honest it is, like you mentioned, but you also have like a sense of like an aesthetic that isn't really showcased as much. Like there's this creator, he's also based in the Bay Area. He also does some work like Eric Wang. He's based in San Francisco, and he kind of operates on a more wider cinematic ones. Same to you, like you also have like a cinematic approach, but how important for you is kind of showcasing the process of how this looks, and identifying those target pieces with the process itself.
Hmm. I mean, I think like I take a lot of inspiration from like other content creators, and like um yeah, I mean, I guess I do feel like there's like a aesthetic component to it. I don't think your videos need to be like super aesthetic for it to like pop off on the internet. Like I'm always an advocate for like having like better like content, like substance, like whatever you're saying, like I feel like is more important than the aesthetic. But I think because like for me, like I naturally gravitate towards like aesthetics and design. Like that's just something that I like really enjoy doing, and I really appreciate. So then like I do try to incorporate it into my videos. So yeah, like I feel like my page is about like curating like a well designed home. So like I try to like match it with like having kind of like a well designed like format, like a more polished format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not gonna lie, this is the first time that we're gonna mention this, but I did want to mention this. The partnerships.
Okay.
That's something that, like, like not even just for like people out there, but also for myself in general are curious about, like, how does the process of getting like a certain partnership work? Like, how you've been able to highlight certain pieces from like HP or, all of the above, really, with the people that you were able to connect with and created those partnerships. How did that come to be? Did they reach out to you or did you reach out to them? How was the process?
I think most of them for me are inbound. So I think because like I am in the home space, it does make my content a lot more versatile to these brands. Like I can pretty much like, help advertise anything, or help like boost anything. Yeah. So like I think like yeah, most of the stuff, most of the partnerships that I get do come inbound. But I only like I only try to work with brands that I feel like are like brand like actual products that I would use like in my home that actually like align with like my brand, my style, and those are the ones that I feel like it's like a balance of like figuring out like, oh, do I really like this product, and then also like, do I feel like I like what this brand represents. Kind of trying to find that balance before I guess like I accept these deals to promote them.
Yeah, that's such an interesting concept. And for those who are just trying to figure out themselves and saying to them like, hey, I really love what Hannah done. This is something that I picture myself doing. What would be some advice you have for them, for people that are just starting out?
Um, I mean, I think really just start with what you have. Like, you really don't need like a good camera. You don't need a beautiful backdrop to like just start filming and like start putting yourself out there. I think like what does really well on the internet is you standing out, like having like a unique perspective. And I feel like if you like, if you feel like you have something to share, like do it in your most authentic form because that's what the audience wants to see. Like we don't want to see like every like the same type of video copy and paste over and over. Like you mentioned, like people do have a very short attention span and like you're not going to stand out online unless you bring your unique perspective.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to like share your ideas and don't be afraid to like think outside of the box.
It's that
Yeah.
concept of being uncomfortable with being comfortable, or being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Apologies if I mispronounced it, but I really love everything that you were able to just say and highlight, because I feel like for creatives, it's kind of hard, like, especially in this day and age with the whole process of AI and just in general, like, it can be so challenging just for people to like find themselves. And it can be sometimes like, saying to them like, dang, I need this target goal right away. And sometimes it can be hard. Like it's a really hard process for them to accept sometimes. But I feel like with you just kind of mentioning how it's okay to start off small, but just as long as you have pieces out there, that's the important part.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like people are very complex. Like humans are very complex and like we have a lot of layers and it's hard being vulnerable like in front of a camera and it's definitely hard being vulnerable in front of like, thousands and thousands of people online. So you just have to kind of, figure out how can you peel back those layers and like be yeah, truly yourself, like who you've always wanted to be like and yeah.
100%. Well, I'm excited to see what comes next. I'm very, very hyped to see how you continue to not only discover your brand and boost your content further, but also, you discovering yourself and pushing the agenda of creativity further.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like this is so much fun and like I feel like I don't get a lot of opportunity to kind of share my story and like share like the thought process behind my work. So thank you so much.
No problem. It was a pleasure to have you on. Thank you.
Yeah.